Hello everyone, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome back to yet another Mortal Kombat 1 video. Today, with us all in the aftermath of the new era, I wanted to actually talk about something that has caused quite a stir in the community due to its very new and quite controversial change to that of the original canon, Hanzo Hasashi, aka the fan-beloved poster boy, Scorpion, at least so he once was. In this new timeline and era, much has changed in terms of characters, designs, as well as origins, but none more so than the Kuai Liang Hanzo dynamic, with their entire character relationship being reworked, as the origins themselves have been re-altered for that of the new era. Thus, the future ahead of this character is completely redone with what could happen between him, Kuai Liang, Smoke, and Bi-Han. But to what degree has this all done? Well, let's discuss that in depth and talk about how these changes could affect Hanzo's character going forward, and my own personal thoughts on it, as it also gives us a rough idea of how these changes will affect him moving forward, as well as give us an idea to what lies in the future of this character. But before we get on with today's video, here's a very quick message from today's sponsor, G2A. Gates to Adventure is an adventure terminal that functions as a way to acquire games, gift cards, and softwares for Netflix, Amazon, and many more at the fraction of their respective market retail price. Plus, it's near instant delivery upon being purchased. Currently, as of right now, G2A is celebrating its birthday, meaning that products will be at a jaw-dropping discount and limited time deals that you definitely don't want to miss out on. One of the reasons why I myself have taken on G2A as a sponsor is actually because I've used G2A quite a fair bit in the past, as it is in fact one of the very few ways to acquire a key for Mortal Kombat 9 on PC. Plus, with Mortal Kombat 1 now officially out, this may be a cheaper alternative for many of you looking to get it. So, if you are at all interested, please do hit my link down below, as it helps both myself and the channel, whilst giving you lot a cheaper price on games you want to acquire. So thank you to G2A for sponsoring this video and being a part of my digital entertainment experience. And of course, thanks to you for sticking around. So with that said, let's just jump right back into things. First off, briefly touching on the Hanzo Hasashi of the older timeline, just so we have something we can compare the current to. So the Hanzo of old was born into that of the Shirai Ryu clan, raised with its teachings, cultures, and beliefs. Here, Hanzo made a name for himself amongst his fellow assassins, with his talents through a kunai and chain, having him be dubbed as Scorpion by their enemies. In time, Hanzo would fall in love with a woman by the name of Harumi, and together they would sire a child by the name of Satoshi. In the following years of what looked to be peace for the clan, they would be struck harsh and swiftly by their rivals, the Lin Kuei. Harumi and Satoshi were killed, with Hanzo shortly following, at least depending on which timeline you're most familiar with. In reality, this massacre would be led by the necromancer Quan Chi, but the blame of it would be placed on none other than Bi-Han, the at the time Sub-Zero. Seeking vengeance, Hanzo returned back to life, but now under the mantle of Scorpion, seeking justice against those that murdered his family and clan. Upon his resurrection, Hanzo was a rage-filled monster, going to extreme lengths with hunting those that were responsible. And this led to the inevitable demise of Bi-Han, as well as a very prolonged rivalry with his younger brother Kuai Liang, which in some instances is resolved. Again, depending on which timeline you're most familiar with. But it also goes to show just how different our current Scorpion situation is from what we have seen previously. To really dive into this topic deeper, I must lay out the foundation of this new Shirai Ryu, starting with Kuai Liang himself, as the creation of this clan is born following the rift and betrayal of the Lin Kuei's original beliefs by its current Grand Master Bi-Han, seeking a far more grand and prosperous future for the clan, defying its original intent of protecting Earthrealm, a gap and hole that the Shirai Ryu look to ultimately fill, now led by Bi-Han's younger brother, Kuai Liang. So it's a complete deviation from that of the original canon, where it was formed by another Hanzo. But I do like that the origins are still roughly the same, where the Shirai Ryu break off from what the Lin Kuei originally was, or in this case, what it was becoming. And even saying that, Kuai Liang himself has undergone a massive change in character for this new era. No longer a cryomancer himself, supposedly, Kuai now utilizes pyromancy, with of course the titular scorpion spear, making him completely unlike what we have traditionally seen of the character. Instead, this version of Scorpion is an amalgamation of Kuai Liang's character, ethics, and morals, whilst donning the Scorpion mantle itself, giving it this very interesting blend of ideas that surprisingly work very well to the game's story, paying off in a very satisfying way for this Scorpion and Sub-Zero conflict. But what I will note is that whilst I have enjoyed Kuai Liang's time under the mantle, allowing us to explore that brotherly rivalry that only at best has been glimmered at, Kuai Liang simply isn't Scorpion. He is a Scorpion, that cannot be denied, but Kuai himself as a character simply doesn't embody that untamed animalistic rage that we've known this character for. That is what I would largely say defines the difference between Kuai Liang and Hanzo Hasashi. But that's not to say that his time under the mantle diminishes it. I'm still under the extremely strong opinion that this Scorpion Sub-Zero feud is probably the best we've ever gotten in game, at least from a storytelling and cinematic perspective, because it's done on such a personal level, with characters that you never actually get to see interact with each other in this way. But again, it goes back to what I said about Kuai Liang not having that unbridled venomous rage. So, this now ties into those arcade ladder endings. For those of you unaware, unlike typical arcade endings of previous games, the ones we have here effectively function as an aftermath to that of the main story, meaning that they are all indeed canon to allow more depth to be added to this new timeline and era, with our first introduction to Hanzo Hasashi being in Smoke's ending, where he is a homeless street urchin in dire need of food. But where most would see hopelessness, Tomas sees unbridled talent in his rage. Knowing that he seeked guidance, Hanzo would be taken to the Shirai Ryu, being granted a home and teaching him their ways. All in all, a very wholesome ending for Smoke. But what does this mean for Hanzo's character? Well, honestly, there's actually a lot of positives with this direction, as one of the main paths they could take is how Hanzo learns to weaponize his rage, with it being tempered by the likes of Smoke and Kuai Liang. And honestly, I kind of like the idea of this, as one of the defining traits, as well as the somewhat inherent flaws and crutches, is that Scorpion is defied by his anger, but it's been used and written in so many ways that it can be to his benefit, but mostly to that of his flaws. As narratively, there are many instances where it has clouded his vision, with MKX being a prime example of how that untempered anger backfired, leaving the heroes of all to succumb to the very same fate he had. So I think with a little tinkering here, we could still get the same Scorpion, just one that's a little bit more refined. as for his current loss of the Scorpion title, the title stuff isn't that much of a bother to me, because if anything, his appearance in this ending and training under Kuai Liang more or less does guarantee his inevitable rise to the mantle, which is ultimately what intrigues me the most, because it means that the possible demise of the Shirai Ryu is what does allow Hanzo to become Scorpion here, honoring his master by taking his name and causing that infamous rage to surface. Hell, if you want to add an extra layer of tragedy to it, you could even have it so that kunai is instead replaced with Smoke's karambit. So even in this new timeline and era, Hanzo may be doomed to watch his clan slowly crumble in front of his eyes, just now done in a way that's never seen before, and reignites the Hanzo and Bihan feud in a completely different perspective that I would say is very refreshing. Now of course, let's talk about the elephant in the room here, Harumi. And this is one that fans seem to be largely divided on, because in previous timelines, Hanzo and Harumi have always been paired together. It's part of his tragic origin story. But here, in this new era, they have strayed very far away from that, instead pairing her with the likes of Kuai, which to some could be seen as taboo. So with that said, what are my own current thoughts on this? Honestly, it doesn't bother me as much as you'd think. I don't really know where this sudden rise of Harumi fans has come from, but truth be told, Harumi herself as a character has always served more as a plot piece to Hanzo than actually be a character herself. She has more in common with the dirt at this point, so her having an opportunity to shine narratively here is something that I would say is actually healthy for the character. Thus, I'm not entirely too bothered with seeing them want to explore her in a new and different way. However, I am also of the opinion that pairing her with Kuai is definitely a bit of a weird pick. There's no denying that I'm not a fan of the idea that the only person that Hanzo has ever loved outside of Satoshi really being torn away from him here. It does rub me a little bit the wrong way, especially with what we see in the invasion mode, as it itself does symbolize that outrage. But I think the ending of that invasion mode pays off in what I would say is a very beautiful way that allows a sort of closure to that of the Scorpion character, seeing as he's never gotten a happy ending. So whilst the Kuai Liang Harumi romance doesn't bother me all that much, this is absolutely something I definitely need to see in cutscene before I have like a definitive opinion, I would say. Chemistry is what's ultimately going to sell this relationship for me, and if it's not there, then it's gonna be a change that I'm not a fan of. So with that said, what are your own current thoughts on the Hanzo Hasashi of this new timeline and era? Do you like the direction they're going in? What do you think of the setup? And where could you see this story going? I'd love to hear what you have to say down in the comments below. But for now everyone, that has been it for me. So as always, stay strong, stay well, and keep on fighting. Take care everyone, I'll catch you all soon.